We light this chalice of the light of hope, the fire of commitment, and the warmth of community.
Welcome, friends, visitors, first-timers, and founding members to this service of worship and celebration here among the River Road Unitarian Universalist congregation. Worship and celebration are two things that we, as a liberal religious people, know best how to do. To name what is of worth and to honor what is most beautiful and worthy of our celebration. In these times, as well as in all the times before and stretching out after these weeks, we also know that we come together to raise up a loving and gracious song of lament for all those hurting and hoping for all those lost and lonely in this world. As the great essayist Miguel de Unamuno once wrote, "The chiefest sanctity of a temple is that it is a place where human beings can go to weep in common." So welcome to this temple that is made sacred by our coming together. Bring your laughter and your wonder and your tears, and come, let us worship together.
Mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit.
Good morning. Our story today is a tale from the Jewish storytelling tradition, and it is hundreds and hundreds of years old. It also has a king in it. He also loved beautiful, beautiful things. He collected tapestries, piles of gold, and the most beautiful statues. However, the thing that he loved the most was the largest diamond in the land. He would hold it in his hand and he would look at how pure it was and without blemish. He would stare at its perfection and lose himself. But one day he picked up the diamond and there was a scratch. He did not know what to do. He called all the diamond carvers in the land, and they came and they looked it up and down and over and out, and they all shook their head. They could not repair it. They could not polish it and risk breaking it into thousands of pieces. But one diamond carver stepped forward and asked to see the diamond. She too took the diamond and looked all around at it, in the light, in the dark, with a spectacle. She looked as long as she could, and then finally she broke out into a smile and she said, "Your Majesty, I can fix this. It will take 2 weeks, and you must not check on me. You cannot come by to check on the progress. You must wait until it's finished." The king said, "Of course, please, please do what you can." The diamond carver took the diamond back to her shop. She got out her tools. She worked on it day after day, night after night. Hour after hour, her fingers hurt from holding the tools too close. Her back hurt from hunched over, staring at the diamond on its table. But one day she finished, 2 weeks later, and she returned to the palace and she said, "Your Majesty, your diamond is more beautiful than ever before." The king took the diamond and he gasped. It was more beautiful because on the top of the diamond, where the scratch was, the diamond carver had added the most beautiful flower to the flaw. And now it was the most unique and beautiful diamond in all of the world. He would sit gazing at it, knowing that things that are broken, that things that have a scratch can be made more beautiful again. The wise diamond carver, well, she knew that the flaw could not be polished away, but it could be added to. We could add to something that was broken to make it more beautiful. And it was. I wonder what object you brought today that's broken or has a scratch, but is very special to you. You can hold it up to the camera so that we can all see. And I'll ask you, what might you add to what is broken? What might you add to the flaw on your object to make it precious and beautiful again?
You know, ministry, it just keeps happening. And not just ministry done by the people on your staff and clergy team, but the ministry of every single one of us, joined by our common endeavor. There are a few of our ministries here at River Road that I want to highlight for our announcements today, including some that are particularly worth celebrating in these times. I want to begin with a shout out to Judy Croft and Mary Beth Bowen and all of you who participated to make Shelter Week a great success. It helped us to equip all the food needed at the Montgomery County Women's and Children's Shelter last week. We adapted as we needed to provide those much needed resources in the safest way possible. And through each and every one of our efforts, our community partners are being helped to weather this storm in ways that none of us could achieve alone. It's also my great joy to thank David Ward, Reverend Amanda, and our Prevent Gun Violence Task Force, who applied on our behalf for a grant from our Unitarian Universalist Association's Disaster Relief Fund to support our ongoing efforts to bring food and safety to our friends in the McElderry Park neighborhood of Baltimore. Time and time again, these partnerships that we have built over time in and around that neighborhood have sought to interrupt violence and to keep the community safe. Now more than ever, they need our friendship, our partnership. The $5,000 that we have been blessed to receive from the UUA Disaster Relief Fund will let us keep supporting the work of the violence interrupters in McElderry Park and to keep those neighborhood kids in school. It is such a blessing to partner with leaders like those violence interrupters who help us know what it is we are most called to do in the world. On another social justice note, our Extending the Offering Giving now and always supports organizations whose mission is vital to our own. And during this crisis, in addition to our regular Extending the Offering collections, which will continue to happen once a month during our services, we will be providing opportunities to give directly throughout the month to our community partner organizations. These organizations, you know, are places that typically serve communities that are vulnerable, especially in times of crisis. And you can watch your e-weekly each week with updates on the needs of our community partners. And if you wish to give, you can follow the direct link to that organization and check this space for upcoming Extending the Offering opportunities. Of course, you know that we are busy here at River Road, not only caring for our communities, but caring for each other. And your pastoral care team is hard at work. If you or members of the community you are connected to are in need of food during this time, we are organizing porch drop-offs of homemade soups from members and friends of our congregation. To that end, we are asking River Roaders to make extra soup and to freeze it in quart-sized containers and keep it on hand to share with members of the community who fall ill with COVID-19 and are sick at home. Your neighborhood captains are working to keep you connected. They might also, in the coming weeks, refer you on to the pastoral care team as needs arise, and the neighborhood captains can send a referral to the following: riverroadcaring@gmail.com. If you know anyone in your cluster group who could use some soup, a drop-off on the porch. Finally, and this appeal is just from me, because I lead this team at River Road, and I know what is at stake. What is at stake in this season of our congregational stewardship campaign is people. The people who matter to you, the people who matter to me. Our annual stewardship campaign, which helps us to make our budget for the coming congregational year, has right now raised a total of $674,239 toward our ultimate goal of $990,000, and we are beyond grateful for the 188 pledges that have yielded that amount. But more than 160 people who pledged last year during our annual campaign have not yet done so this year. And while we recognize that many of us are reeling from public health and financial crises, and we don't know what the next year will bring, we hope that you will consider the some level of pledging for you and your family, no matter what that level might be, in order to avoid truly deep cuts in our programming and in our staffing here at River Road. We need to get closer to our goal. And even if your pledge needs to be smaller this year, the implications are very real for the people you care about and depend on here in our congregation. So please, we need to hear from you at whatever level is right for you and for your family. We have to come through this together. And if we're going to be there for each other on the other side of this, just as we are here for each other as we are going through this, we need you to make your pledge right now. You can go to our website, click on the pledge button in the top right corner of the homepage, or contact Anna Lim at alim@rruuc.org. It is not pressure, me saying these things. It is just telling the truth. And so much of what we are called to do, you know, in these times, is to say true things out loud with great love. Indeed, we come to this space with our joys and our concerns, our laughter and our tears. And you can feel free throughout today's service to add your written joys and concerns to the chat feature as it scrolls by in our live Zoom watch party. If you'd like to have your thoughts lifted up in the e-weekly, your joys and concerns followed up on by a minister or member of our pastoral care team, please contact me, Reverend Nancy, at rruuc.org. Today, we lift up all the friends, family members, and beloveds serving on the front lines of our hospitals and our healthcare facilities. We lift up the ones who are serving, the ones who are fighting, the ones who are just trying to get by. And we lift up those lost, the souls who won't come home from the hospital, the vibrant and lonely ones who passed alone, though not unloved, in the midst of this pandemic. Holding it all, to the degree that our hearts can handle. Won't you make a space for prayerful reflection with me? Spirit of life, Spirit of love, we are called in these days to believe in each other, to believe in more than just our good intentions. We are called to believe in goodness itself. in the persistent ability of each and every person to reach within themselves and find waiting there not just knowledge of the right thing to do, but knowledge of the brave thing, the challenging thing, the big-hearted thing. We are called to believe that such a deep well of truth and challenge and compassion lives inside each of us, and that all of our fear and all of our anxiety, and yes, all of the uncertainty of these our days is just a thin layer cast atop our basic human potential to care, to love, to hurt when others are hurting, and to find within ourselves and one another all the strength we will ever need and all the courage that will be required for the journey ahead. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Root hold me cold, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
In this season of anxiety, we also find generosity in all of its forms. Generosity of spirit, of time, of commitment, of community. As you are able, you can give in our virtual collection plate today. Text 73256 with the message RRUUC, a plus sign, and the amount of your generosity this morning. More instructions are available in the chat feature on the screen, and the music, of course, is a gift to us all. Thank you.
I remember it well. About 19 years ago, we had just moved to Bethesda and our oldest son had started kindergarten. We'd been going to River Road for several years. 9/11, missing coworkers, anxiety, silent skies over our house on the flight path to National. One evening that week, my wife Barbara went to an impromptu service at River Road, co-sponsored with Insight Meditation and Beth Kai. She shared how comforting it was to see our neighbors, our son's new kindergarten teacher, and church members together at the service. We were now part of a community. The connection grew. I remember dropping our boys off at the daycare here and talking with Sherry in the office every morning. Over the next 19 years, our boys went through the RE program, OWL, youth group, service trips to West Virginia, and sang in all three of the youth choirs under Cliff. So now we have another great challenge that demands community and connection. I was worried when the virus hit at the start of our annual stewardship campaign. How will we feel the connection without being together on Sundays? What happens if people don't pledge? But then I saw the webcasts of our Sunday services 3 weeks ago. Simple at first and growing each week to provide the stability of the familiar. Watching the service provides me with so much comfort and strength and makes me really appreciate what we have here. I hope everyone watching experiences something similar, sees the value of this institution and supports it with your pledge. Just go to the RRUC website and click on Pledge Here. Now, more than ever, we need each other.
Growing up, I shared a room with my middle sister, who is slightly older than me. And I remember taking some tape and drawing a long line down the middle of the room to distinguish my space from hers, to claim my own territory. And although she always got her stuff in it, I'd move it out each time. When I was 15 years old, we moved to the house that my family still lives in now. And the very first thing I did before my sisters got a chance was I went through the whole house, each bedroom, finding which one suited me the most. And I claimed it, my own room, finally, at last. When I was 19 years old, after my first year of college, I couldn't wait to get my own apartment, my tiny little apartment of my own. And although I slept with the lights on for the whole first week, I eventually adapted and adjusted, and I loved it. Creating and claiming my own space has always been incredibly important for me. Our spaces and who we share our space with and how we create our space is a big part of our identities. Right now, we're being asked to take a big thing of tape and draw a line around the spaces of our lives and stay within it. And it's incredibly hard. Earlier this week, a wise person told me that there is a distinction between fitting into a space and filling up a space. And it resonated with me so deeply because that's the war that's going on for so many of us in our own lives. What it means to fit in a space versus to fill up a space. Author Virginia Woolf, in her essay, A Room of One's Own, talks about this very issue in terms of the society and the culture that she was living in that was incredibly repressive towards women. As an author, she was exposed to stories and tells of all of these brave, fantastic women in fiction, but she knew that women in real life were restricted from writing any of this fiction. One of the points that she makes is in order to really create writing, to create stories, a person needs a room of one's own. And unless your family is incredibly rich, as a woman, you aren't going to get that. She described the struggle of seeing men thrive in this industry, thrive as writers and authors, knowing that a lot of their women counterparts weren't even given the opportunity. They could see themselves in fiction, but they actually couldn't write it. They could fit into the space, but they weren't allowed to fill it up. And although that's not our exact struggle in this moment in time, we are being faced with that very challenge. I believe the tension of fitting in or filling up is that of adaptation and agency. The need to adapt to this new way that we are being asked to fit in, and to have the agency to create the filling up of it, to create who we are in these spaces. And of course, the reality is that we never get to do either at 100%. We're asked to do both. Of course, what Virginia Woolf was focused on was getting that agency, which was very important in that period of time. But ours doesn't have to be attention. We can combine both of those and find where we fit in and how we fill up. Many of us are encountering our spaces becoming classrooms or offices or gyms. We're asking ourselves to become teachers. We're asking ourselves to move into new ways of being and understanding in order to adapt. But we're also finding that we get to create as well. Neither exists independent of the other in this place and this time. And just as much as our physical space matters, our inward space matters too. How are we fitting in and how are we filling up that space inside us that is ours and ours alone? Perhaps we're fitting in anxiety and worry. Perhaps we're fitting in the fear of the unknown or preparing and hunkering down for something that is to come, but we're not sure what yet. And let me tell you, that is 100% okay. There's no way that we have to feel or that we're not allowed to feel right now. The idea that we're not allowed to have any fear, the idea that we're not allowed to worry, or that we have to have this knowing that exists beyond all knowing, that's out the window. We are allowed to feel and experience what we are experiencing. We're allowed to fit it in. And how are we filling up? What are we claiming of our space, our inward space that is ours and ours alone? How are we filling up our space as we fit things into it? How are we claiming that piece of ourselves, that piece of our lives that is just ours? I've been in Tennessee for the last 3 weeks. I came home to help out with my family and just to be with family in general as things were unfolding. And after a few days, one of the things I did that I was incredibly called to do was to once again find my own space. Not just my childhood bedroom, but my own space. My space in which to be Amanda. My space in which to be Reverend Amanda. My space that was created by me, even as I was having to fit back in to a household and a family system that at 34 years old I've been out of for a while. How am I being called to fill up as I am fitting in? How are the two married and combined together? This is our 3rd week of doing online worship, our 3rd week of fitting into this new space that we are creating together from scratch every week. And for the previous 2 weeks, as I've been fitting in, these messages have filled me up. The first week was, this is where we're at, and this is what we're doing, which has become my mantra. This is where I'm at, and this is what I'm doing. Of course, last week when we moved into our April worship theme of balance, this understanding of balance as a lot of small movements of repair, small acts of repair, that it's not one major concept or just one thing that you would turn to, but many different returns consistently. This week, as I contemplate what it means to create my own space and to fit into the spaces around me, it has me thinking about the distinction between what's right and what's best. With all the decisions and the choices that we're faced with every single day as we rearrange our lives and as we try to prepare for something that we really don't know about yet, I find myself oscillating between what's right and what's best. Usually, what's best. I've been learning that we can't know what's right now. In a lot of situations, that's true, but especially with this, we don't know what's right until we experience it. But we can know what's best. What's best for ourselves, what's best for those around us, our loved ones, and even those beyond our walls. What we can do is follow the best recommendations. What we can do is do what's best for ourselves, for our mental health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. What's right versus what's best. And in understanding that distinction, I realize that when I don't know what's best, I can lean into trust. Trusting the best intentions. Trusting that other people are doing what they need to be doing. Trusting that I'm doing what's best in my life. There are so many unknowns right now, the unknowns on top of unknowns on top of unknowns. And we can get stuck in that loop without agency where we're only fitting in. Or we can go to the extreme other end and only focus on what we want to do and what we want to create. But we have to balance it. It becomes many acts of reparation, many acts of repairing our lives, repairing what's happening around us, balancing once more, falling off and getting back up, figuring out the right way to record a video, figuring out the best way to create what we had in person online, figuring out our priorities, figuring out what's best for us, balancing the agency and the adaptation. As we move further down this road, further into the unknown, may we balance, may we adapt, and may we create, fit in, and fill up, knowing that we don't always know what's right, but we can do what's best. We can search our hearts. We can follow best practices. We can take care of each other. We can fit in just as much as we fill up. May we do what we need in our lives to fill our spirits with that which is nurturing, with that which is nourishment. May we give where we can and receive when we're able. May we do all of this knowing that we are connected, that we're out here, we're doing our best, we're showing up, we're making it. May it always be so. Blessed be.